in Atlanta this week, and we are toasting in Atlanta. Hey, it's about that champagne life. Well, really wine for me tonight. Guys, thank you so much for joining me tonight for a cake wine conversation. I am Kim, the pastry chef at Jus Cakin here in Atlanta. I really, really, really appreciate you. Tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to be talking about my favorite decorating tools while enjoying a favorite glass of wine, bubbly, water, whatever it is that you're deciding to indulge in tonight. So cheers, guys. Cheers, cheers, cheers. So tonight I am drinking Cab, and so fitting, it's Cake Layer, and it's a vintage California wine from 2017, and it's really good. Surprisingly, it's really good. So I like it. Guys, if you all are sipping on anything tonight, feel free to leave a comment, or if you have any questions throughout the evening, feel free to just chime in, and I'll get those answered for you. All right? So tonight, we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to start off with our questions. So, let's see. Sorry about turning the pages. Okay. So, the first question says, Dear Chef Kim, I have had my eye on a vanilla cake recipe. However, I'm hesitant because I do not like the taste or smell of buttermilk. I would really like to try this recipe. Can I substitute buttermilk for whole milk? And do you have a recipe to make buttermilk? Because it's not something that I frequently keep in my fridge. Sign, I don't like buttermilk. All right, guys, so this question has about 3 different parts for it. So I'm just going to jump right in and give you an answer. Miss, I don't like buttermilk. The first part is the reason why the buttermilk, the first part is no, you cannot substitute buttermilk, whole milk for buttermilk. If your recipe calls for buttermilk, then I highly suggest that you go ahead and put the buttermilk in the cake, because buttermilk is very acidity, and so what that does to your cake is it helps your cake to stay moist, believe it or not, and it has a subtle tang to it, so when you're eating your cake, you're not going to smell it, and you're definitely not going to taste it. The other part of your question is, do I have a recipe? Yes, it's really, really simple. If you don't have buttermilk in the fridge, what you can do is take 1 cup of buttermilk and add 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. So if you're using a measuring cup, I suggest you use like a 2-cup measuring cup, not a 1 cup, because when you put the lemon juice into your buttermilk and start stirring it up, it's going to kind of bubble up a little bit. And so what you need to do at that point is just let it stay, let the buttermilk and the lemon juice sit to the side. Yes, the question was about if you have a recipe that's calling for buttermilk, can you substitute it for whole milk, which is regular milk? And my answer to that is no, because again, buttermilk is going to give your cake a really good texture. It's going to help it stay moist, and the smell of the acidity in the buttermilk is very, very subtle, and you're not going to be able to taste it, nor are you going to be able to smell it. All right, so hope that answered your question to that. The next question says, Kim, I'm trying to make a simple vanilla buttercream frosting. What in the heck is the difference between heavy cream and heavy whipping cream? And why in the heck can I find heavy cream in the grocery store? And this is signed Cali Girl. All right, guys. So the main difference between whipping cream and heavy cream is the fat content. Okay? Another difference is, this is another really big difference, is that whenever you're using the heavy whipping cream, it's going to make the consistency, it's going to be thicker, and it's recommended for using like fillings, icing, anything that has to do with baking. When you're using whipping cream, it's going to be a lot thinner. The whipping cream is going to dissolve easily. So it's the texture. So when you're baking and your recipe calls for heavy whipping cream, there's a reason behind it, because it needs to be more stable. Whereas with the heavy cream, just the whipping cream, not the heavy cream. With the whipping cream, it's a lot looser, okay? And also with the whipping cream, it's going to become looser over a period of time. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right, so cheers. And also, like I said, I do recommend using the heavy whipping cream for any type of icings or fillings or anything cake related. As far as finding in your grocery store, just about every grocery store that I've ever gone into will have the heavy whipping cream. Some grocery stores is in a different section. I know some I'm going to find it over there where the milks, the coffee creamer, and things like that would be. And then there are other grocery stores that I will go in, and you're going to find it, for example, over there by the, what do you call that, like the yogurt? Go figure. So different grocery stores will house their whipping cream and heavy whipping cream in different sections. So if you can't find it, just go and just ask. But it should. It's so common that it should be found just about in any grocery store. All right, guys, and our last question says, Hi, Chef Kim. For the past 2 years, I've attempted to bake strawberry cake for my dad's birthday. Both times, my cake sunk, and it is gooey in the middle. Not the good gooey, like when you're eating a brownie. It's the wet kind of gooey. Please help. My dad's birthday is in 6 weeks. Sign, new to baking. Usually when you have a cake and it's gooey in the middle, the first indication, and usually the main reason why, is because it's not done in the middle. So when you're baking your cake, and if, and it can happen if your recipe says, hey, and you need to bake this cake for 25 minutes, and you're unexperienced or you're an experienced baker, and you go in and you say, oh, yep, it's 25 minutes, the ding went off, let me go ahead and just pull the cake out of the oven, without testing it, you're going to get that, because different oven temperatures vary, whether you're using a regular oven at your house or whether you're using a convectional oven. It's just going to vary. So what I suggest is you just take a wooden skewer and stick it down in the middle. And a lot of people say if the pit comes out clean, my Kim's pro tip is when you put the skewer down in the middle of the cake, you do want to have a little crumb on the cake, but you don't want it to be wet. So there's a difference. Wet skewer and crumb skewer. The reason why I always like a crumb skewer is because when you get the cake out and it has the little crumb left on the skewer, the cake is still hot out of the oven, and it's going to have it's still going to, bake, but not really bake, if you understand what I'm saying. It's still going to cook. And that way you don't want your cake to be too dry. Also, when you touch the cake, it should spring up, right? You get it? So when you touch it, it should spring up. If you touch it and it doesn't spring up, that's another indication that it's not done in the middle. But if you're not experienced and you're not used to baking, I highly recommend that you use a wooden skewer to make sure that the cake is done. So guys, I really appreciate you all sending your questions in every week. They've been fun, and I just really appreciate it. And I just want to say thank you guys for doing that. Remember, these answers to your questions, disclaimer, they're my opinion only, okay? My professional opinion. So we're going to just jump right in. Hey, how are you? Thanks for joining. And thanks everybody for joining tonight. We're going to just go ahead and talk about my favorite decorating tools. These are the things that I feel are definitely needed when you're baking. So the first one I'm going to start off is going to be a bench scraper. All right. This is a tool that you can buy at your local Home Depot, your local Lowe's store, and if you'll see on the edge, you can't see here, but on the edge, it's going to tell you that this is like a 6-inch bench scraper. And if you can see how straight it is on the end, so that when you're baking your cake, you're able to get a very smooth, professional edge. So this is a definite must-have. You have to have a bench scraper if you're trying to, get a professional look to your cake. And again, it's at Home Depot or Lowe's or just whatever. You can order them on Amazon. And this is not the only size. I have several, but this is just one of the sizes that I have. And make sure, guys, when you are putting you've done your crumb coating and you're ready to put your icing on for your bench scraper, make sure that it's like this on the bottom and attached to the cake right here, and just go around and it'll give you very crisp, sharp edges. All right? So the next thing that I use, you got yours. The next thing that are my favorites, or that I have to have, is going to be the cake boards. These are 8-inch round cake boards, and I'm going to go ahead and poke a little hole right here. There's two different kinds. One has the hole in it, and the other one doesn't. So if you're just baking a regular cake and you don't need to stack the cake, meaning, 2 or more layers, then you can just go with this one, regular cake board. However, if you are stacking the cake, I highly recommend you use the cake board with the hole in it. Don't try to put your own hole in here. It's so much easier, to just do it yourself. This is another tool that I use. It's called a wooden cake dowel. Another thing that I bought at Home Depot. So when I'm making really big wedding cakes, you can cut these down and trim them yourself. And ta-da, there you have it. See how easy that was? And these come in different sizes, so depending on the type of, how large your cake is. So if you're doing a large wedding cake, you definitely have to have the larger wooden dowel. These are the smaller wooden dowels that you can put in. You can either use the regular one, that have smooth edges, or you can use the one with a pointed tip. All right? The next thing are, these are called offset spatulas, and they come in a lot of different sizes. So this is a larger one, so when I am decorating larger cakes, I like to use the larger offset spatula. However, when I first started out, I only use the smaller one. And a lot of times, whether I'm doing a large or a smaller cake, it's just my favorite. See how it is? It's an offset spatula. And what you do is you place the icing on the back and you just rub it on the sides of the cake that way. All right? Next is a cake board. So you do not want to give a client the regular cake boards. You want to give them a cake drum. All right? See how thick it is? And you can also cover this in just like white. This is something that I have just recently learned, that if you've ever been in any type of a cake competition, you'll notice that in order to submit your cake in a competition, which I have not at this point, this needs to be white. So going forward, I'm going to start covering my drums, in all white. I'm out with the gold and the silver. The next item is a professional size cake pan. And I only use light. I don't use dark. This is a 6-inch professional cake pan. It bakes so much differently. When I first started out, guys, I bought these cake pans, I'm not going to say where, and it had some guy's name on it, and I thought they were really great. You know, they were kind of pricey, but what I noticed is when I took them out of the pan, they were not even. Like the sides would, it's so hard to explain. Like the sides were not round, but when you use a professional round cake pan, you're going to get a wonderful, crisp, beautiful professional cake. So the difference, you're asking, what is the difference between a light and a dark pan? The difference between a light and a dark pan is going to be several different things. Number one is going to be the way that the cake bakes. If you are using dark pans, your cakes are going to bake a lot faster, and you're going to have really dark edges, and the edges are going to be harder. When you're using a light pan, which I highly recommend, these are the only ones that I use, the cake is going to be really golden brown. All right, so I hope that answers your question. The next thing is going to be a cake leveler. This is another tool that you can get at Home Depot. I'm going to sit it right here. So when my hands are not even, so you probably can't see this. So when you have decorated your cake and you don't want your cake to be lopsided. If you can see right here in the middle, the little bubble should be in the middle. My hand is not, I'm not a surgeon, so if you can see it right there, that's even. So that way you know that you need to either gently, sorry, it's my dog. Quiet, Chance, no. You need to gently either press on the left side or the right side to kind of get your cake even. But another great find at Home Depot, and they make these in a lot of different sizes. So if you're making a 10 or 12 inch cake, this is not going to work. You need the longer one, all right? These are the straws. These are like actually milkshake straws that I buy at the grocery store. And these are used whenever you're stacking a cake, whether stacking is 2 or more layers. And you put them in and you just center them in for support, because the last thing you want to do is to give a client a cake that's tall and heavy and it breaks, okay? You just put these straws in there, and again, they're used for support. Piping bags, that's another essential that you need. All right, so this is a piping bag that you can reuse, my favorite kind. All right, so what you do is you just snip the ends off. They make these in disposable, they make these in reusable. I like both, but this is my preference to use the ones that you can reuse. All right. So makeup brushes, guys, they are not just for makeup. I just dropped one. But anyway, when you're hand painting on a cake or brushing on luster dust or disco dust or things like that, you're going to need brushes. You can buy these at the dollar store, Amazon, or wherever. They're just makeup brushes or painter's brushes. Decorating tips. So you can have this is one of my favorite tools that I use, especially when I'm decorating cupcakes. It's a Wilton 1M tip. It gives you kind of like the cool ice cream kind of look on there, so it's pretty cool. But you need to have an arsenal of different decorating tips. And I highly recommend, guys, don't be afraid to just play around with the different tips, because you'll be so surprised that you can do so many cool shapes or designs, on your cake. The big thing with me and cake for 2019 is color and texture. I am such a black girl. I love everything black. And I'm stepping way outside of my comfort zone and going with more color this year and going with textures. Textures are really amazing. And you don't need a tip for texture. Actually, the only thing you need for texture is an offset spatula. All right? So we have about 2 more things to go. That'll be it. So this is, I put the tape right here so I can hide the name because I'm not trying to advertise for anybody. This is your what, guys? Does anybody know what this is? It's your cake decorating turntable. Can you guys see it? So So it's so much better than if you're trying to set a cake on a counter and just decorate it. Oh my God, I'm just here to tell you it's going to be a hot, bubbly mess. You do need a professional turntable. It's not a Lazy Susan, but you can use a Lazy Susan if you like just the bottom part, because what you're going after is the ability to turn the wheel. You see what I'm saying? So when you have your cake on here, guys, your cake, and you're icing your cake, you can just easily, let me lift it up, you can just easily turn. Just turn and ice, turn and ice, and turn and ice, and then you're done. So if you don't have one, you can invest in one. If you're just getting started and you're thinking about cost, you can, go to Michael's or Joann's and use a coupon, as I did when I first started, and I bought the little cheapy Wilton one. It was okay for starting, but once you get into the professional side, you're going to really need a really good cake decorating table. And the last thing that I'm going to talk about tonight is going to be, once your cake is all decorated and it's all pretty, you're going to need a beautiful cake plate. All right? You can get these in all different colors, all different cakes, and all different sizes. What you don't want to do is put your cake on one of those plastic tubes that look like a hairdryer, in my opinion. The big ones that your grandma, your mom used to use, and you had the little snap, you could snap and seal, and it had the little handle, and you can just tote it. No, when you're having an event and you worked really hard to make this cake really pretty, you want to show it off and put it on a beautiful, 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 hey there, beautiful cake table. So just to recap, guys, do you all have any questions about anything I've talked about or anything I've shared with you guys tonight? Feel free to leave a comment there. Yes, it was called a carry and tote, I guess. That's so 70-ish or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, you don't want to use them. Guys, are y'all having any kind of cocktails tonight? All right, so what I have been asked to do is to have somebody to join in on Cake Wine Conversation. What do you make with the offset spatula? So the offset spatula, well, thanks for joining from work. The offset spatula is used whenever you're putting the icing on the cake. All right? So, for example, you have your cake stand right here. You can see it. And you have your cake right here. So you dip the icing in it, and the icing is here, pretend, on the back. And you just take your offset spatula, and you just put it here, and you work it all the way around. All right? So that's what your offset spatula is for. All right, guys? So, again, we talked about the brushes that you can use, just to recap. That's going to, if you're the makeup brushes that you can use if you're trying to add any type of drawing or painting or anything like that on the cake. The offset spatula, that's for applying the icing to the cake. The cake leveler, that's for making sure your cake is straight, because what you don't want to have is your cake looking like this sideways. No sideways cake, guys. You want to have a cake dowel so that when you're making a cake that's 2 tiers or larger, it's going to give your cake support. You want to also have your milkshake straws, is what I call them, and what they actually are, that you can stick around them going like a clock in a clockwise direction. That's going to also give the cake support, because you don't want the cake to fall over in delivery, or once the client have it and they go to cut the cake and the cake fall over. That's a really ugly look, so you don't want to do that. You're going to have we talked about the different wooden dowels. You're going to have your bench scraper. That's so that you can get your smooth, crisp edges. Not only your edges, the top of your cake. Your decorating tip, your beautiful cake stand, and your disposable or plastic cake piping bag. Your professional cake pan, and your cake boards. Do you cut the cake with a knife or something else? I always cut my cake with a serrated knife. That is my best friend, a serrated knife. The one with the little ridges on it. It's going to give you an even, clean cut. And absolutely, guys, no slices, no triangles. Okay? That's how do you make a triangle? I'm not sure. Like that? Whatever it is. No triangle. Slices. That way you're going to be able to maximize your portions. All right, guys, so that's all I have tonight. So, as always, thank you guys so much for joining me for a cake wine conversation here on the gram. And I look forward to seeing you guys next Monday at 8 p.m. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to join in. Oh, and before I go, don't forget to DM me your cake questions. So I really appreciate those. And Valentine's Day is coming up, and we're going to be offering sugar cookies. I should have some samples to show you guys really soon. And we're going to be doing a pop-up shop in Dunwoody for 4 days. And it's going to be really, really cool. You're very welcome. All right, guys. So, cheers and champagne, kisses, dreams, and all that good stuff. I'll see you guys next Monday. Bye.